Welcome to another Telling It Like It Is. My name is Jade Alberts, the founder of Pure Guidance. I am coming to you live. It's not at the lake where I was supposed to be because we got no internet. I'm supposed to be at my wife's parents. They have problems, so I'm sitting at a coffee shop in Yorkton. So let's hope everything goes well. I wanted to thank the Canadian Blockchain Summit for their sponsorship. It is October 19th and 20th. We are going to be bringing in great people talking about many topics from blockchain across the board to mining to Web3 to the metaverse. But more importantly, one of the gentlemen that we are going to be talking with today is going to be on a panel. Lee, how are you doing today?
Good morning, Jade. I am doing awesome. I only wish, the only thing that can make my life better is if I was in Yorkton with you.
Well, I mean, there's no Eiffel Tower in Yorkton as there is in Momart, as you pointed out to a fellow Sasky who did not know that. But hey, Yorkton is Yorkton. It's still good.
Exactly. And then we could do a road trip. We could go see the Eiffel Tower in Momart.
Exactly, right? I mean, there's so many little trinkets around this great province. But hey, as long as the internet holds up and Grampy's here, I'm extremely happy. Yes, thank you. And I get coffee today, so it's even better. So I can't complain. Who's serving you coffee right now, Lee?
Nobody. Self-serve.
Self-serve. Oh my goodness. Well, I wanted to. Why don't we just grab into it in case we do lose some of our internet here? But I wanted to talk about the Canadian Blockchain Consortium and the Web3 Committee. How did you become interested in Web3? And share your story.
Oh, that's a big question. And tech geek at heart and tech optimist, as we were chatting before, and always looking at how do we make our future better? What are the newest, shiniest things? How does it impact our individual lives and our society? And software engineer by trade, and always excited about where will our code and coding environments take us? And over the years, followed some of the Bitcoin story, the Ethereum story, but it didn't pull me in as much as what we've been seeing over the last couple of years, where we start to see an emergence around some open protocols, the decentralized computing, decentralized database, which gets really exciting to me. And what new problems can we solve? And so, like many others, seeing some of the stories and the surface excitement brought me to look a little deeper below the surface, and not just looking at speculating at coins or where a currency might go, but how might we use these technologies and these approaches for new business models, new ways of learning, new ways of socializing. And so I like to think I'm a curious person at heart. And so, digging deeper, trying to connect, trying to learn, led me to some of the folks like yourself, the Blockchain Consortium, and through discussions, digging deeper, wanting to not only learn more, but be able to share as I learn as I go. And so that led me not only to Web3, but also the consortium.
Yeah, and we basically kind of had a neat way of meeting. We were, bringing in one of your colleagues to talk at the Alberta Technology Symposium, and then you and I meet for coffee at my second home, Espresso Cafe, and all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, I think we found our person for the Web3 committee. So I'm like, well, hey, Clay, you got to meet Lee. You got to have a coffee with them. And every time I tell Clay that, I don't want to get too excited because I don't want her to influence her decision. So I said, you got to sit down with Lee. And then all of a sudden you guys did. And then she's like, oh my God, Web3 is like, yep. and boom, here you are now, you are actually heading up our Web3 committee. And I want to talk, it's such a buzzword, right? There's a lot of buzzwords. We'll get into some of the other ones later, but why do you think Web3 is important, and where do you see the Web3 committee going within the CBC?
So I'm going to backtrack on one thing for a moment. And, just with you adding that little bit of story in for background, it just highlights the importance of, openness, yes, and kind of peering around, where it's like there was no driver that we had to connect. There was no driver forcing function that Kalea and I had to, or to even spend the time. Like, I don't know that there was I didn't know. Maybe there was like this inkling for yourself and Kalea that there was a new committee coming, or that there was this thing. And it's through a little bit of what if, let's take a chance, let's have like just a cup of coffee. why not have a conversation? So I love that. And it's such a story of the tech world. And, how do you find the next opportunity, whether, a tech or a relationship? Say yes, go have a coffee, have a chat.
Well, so important. I mean, we talk about the importance of networking all the time, right? Like always on, always ready to have that conversation with somebody.
All right. And then Jade, I got so lost in my thought there. What was your next question?
That's good. This is why it's live. It doesn't matter where we go, right?
Yes.
It's, we wanted to talk about the importance of Web3 and, and on the second half of that, what do you think we can accomplish within the Web3 committee, within the Canadian Blockchain Consortium?
All right. Awesome. I can handle that. So why is it important? So I have enough gray hair I can speak to Web 1. And for me, I reflect fondly back on those times and this idea of taking these open networking ideas, open protocols, and the idealism of changing the world and having an impact. And we did, I think, was super exciting. And new business models, new ways of engaging, new ways of shopping, socializing, fundraising, like so much came out of Web 1. And I'll say perhaps we also learned some things as we transition into a Web 2 world where, yet a bigger footprint, yet bigger technology, bigger companies, bigger data collections, bigger invasions of privacy, bigger algorithms. Well, not necessarily a bigger algorithm, but bigger impact from algorithms accessing things we do or do not know about, likely don't know about. And I've struggled a bit with that, where it's like, well, where is the openness we all were seeking and all the positive impact and the idealism? And how do we build together and do so, I'll say, in an additive way versus an extractive way? And I look at Web3 now, and it's like there's some really strong parallels right down to winters and crypto winter versus after the .com days and the investment winter and all that kind of stuff. And what really is exciting now is we have another set of openness and empowerment and change the world mentality, and I'll say some inclusivity. There was a great tweet out a while ago that was saying, the reason Web3 is interesting is we invited the artists this time. And I love the thought of that. It's interesting for more than that, but I love that idea that, hey, we're being more inclusive and there's more opportunity. And I think in a walled garden, segregated, extractive model, you're not as inclusive, right? And if you are, it's just to extract from more people, right? They're more earning opportunities versus uplifting or letting people express themselves. So anyhow, that's getting kind of to the idealistic side. But why is it cool? Well, we've got many gigantic open distributed databases with the immutability that blockchain gives us by default. That's super cool. And that serves as a foundation for our metaverse. That serves as a foundation as we look at NFTs, as we look at DAOs and how we create business models. And then you start adding the smart contract capabilities on top of that. And it's a gigantic, open, distributed, decentralized computing platform. And what will we do with that? I don't know yet. And that's also exciting, right? Like there's so much to discover here. And being a curious person and a tech optimist and someone who's trying to figure out, what are the new business models like a DAO? What and how do you use an NFT for beyond just a PFP? I don't know if you come across the Big 3 basketball league. I think it's just the coolest thing where you can become an owner through your NFT. And the privileges of being an owner is one, you're engaging with the coaches and strategy on your basketball team. You help pick the uniforms they're going to wear that day. That's kind of neat. But the thing that really excites me is there's a weekly debrief with the officials, and you can share your feedback directly with the ref about what a good job or not a good job they're doing. And I don't know about you, but if I'm sitting watching sports and it's like the blow and call, I'm like, man, how did you get that wrong? And so it's amazing to think of that engagement as a sports fan, or if there's artist, visual artist or recording artist, to be able to engage with them where it's kind of the 1,000 true fans, where you build a relationship with someone whose art, work, etc. speaks to you. So that was a lot of stuff. I'll pause there for a second.
Oh, no, I think it's great, and I mean, we're really going to dive into the metaverse next week with Kurum, and I know you've met him and probably had a few conversations with them, and they will land there. They're doing some great things. already. So we'll save that discussion for next weekend. But you dropped out a couple, NFTs and DAOs. Why don't you explain, if you're going to give a Reader's Digest version for us people that are a little more vintage and understand what that means of NFTs
Sure
and
thing.
DAOs.
Well, I'll start with DAOs. I talked a little bit about NFTs, but a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. Probably the best entry into thinking about it and how it operates is think about what would the new modern view on a co-op be? And it's a little bit of a rough analogy between the two, but the idea is what if me, you, and a whole bunch of friends we may not have yet or yet to meet decide we're going to create a new initiative of some kind. Does it have to be Jade and Lee as the owners and telling everybody, and the people at the bottom get a little bit of a salary, but they don't benefit from the upside? Or we say, hey, here's a couple shares. What if we try to flatten it and say, what if we together are 10, 20, 30, or hundreds or thousands of people come together, we all decide what to do, we vote on what we're going to do, we share in the upside, we share in the work, and all the decisions we make are recorded and enabled through use of blockchain smart contracts. And we have, they talk about code being law, code is law. And the code itself is enforcing our governance that we've decided on. And it starts to reduce the friction of, well, in a traditional organization, how could you get everybody together? Like, what if we weren't in the same city? Do we need, a show of hands over Zoom? If we're in the same city, do we need to be at the same coffee shop? But what if it was as simple as, here's my vote, it's based on a token, it's recorded on the blockchain, we can always go back, and whatever rules we put in place are automated. And people are using DAOs for many different things, whether it's supporting blockchains themselves or starting to look at creating ownership around basketball leagues or social clubs. I'm actually building a DAO in Calgary and in Alberta focused on building Web3 skills and advancing how we can use Web3 to build Web3 capabilities, recognizing that all this stuff is emerging and being figured out as we go. Oh, I can't hear you, Jade. No. Yes. For a second.
Hear, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now we're back. We're back. Okay. I think that's a great description, and it actually rolls right into my next, because everybody thinks about, oh my God, they see Web3, they don't, maybe they understand it, maybe they don't. And then again, as for somebody who's in the tech world as an investor, I am very untech. So when you say you're building a DAO, or sorry, building, going through yours, building this so you can help the Web3, but what do people do? Do people really need skills that have you? Or, obviously the majority probably fall into my world to understand the Web3, to play in the Web3. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and I'll give a couple examples. So as we're building the DAO, a big part of it is building community. So at a minimum, do you need coding skills to build a community? No, you need a very different set of skills. Are you able to engage with folks, help them feel comfortable, help them feel productive, help them see not only how they can contribute, but how they benefit, keeping them engaged, keeping them aligned with the larger vision. Those are amazing, awesome skills that are not my sweet spot. I like people, I like engaging with people, but I would be the worst community host and community manager. Like, no qualms about it, no issues to come forward with that. That my strengths are elsewhere, and maybe more to the technical side, and where are we going to go? And so community managers are needed, people to think about the vision, the mission. How do we govern and how do we vote? How do we decide and make decisions? None of those things require a coding technical skill, and they translate really well into legacy situations, right? Like somebody would say, oh, community manager, I'm familiar with that. Or, I was a developer relations manager. Like, those skills are out there. It's just, how do we attune them into a Web3 world? And from there, things get deeper, and it's like, oh, well, I want to start coding smart contracts, or I want to organize events. Like, there's additional depth we can go to. But in a DAO, there are a lot of roles and a lot of ways to engage. And it really comes down to, does the mission of the DAO align with your own interests and passions? And either a way to leverage the skills or build the skills you want to desire. Because in a community like this, oftentimes there are opportunities to say, hey, I don't know how to do this yet, but I got a good attitude, I got a passion, and I'm willing to learn. And it can become a really great way to learn. And so with the DAO we're building, in addition to figuring out, how do we govern, how do we build a treasury, how do we do bounties and other things, we're also doing real concrete things. So a first success is we organized some teams and had them participate in a hackathon, and a web3 sustainability stablecoin hackathon. We got 11 people, 2 teams-ish, over the finish line, where they submitted some original ideas on how to use Web3 to advance rewilding in Western Canada, which is really cool in itself, right? How do we make a better planet? How do we rewild, advance our sustainability, and do so through technology? It's an interesting combination. On the teams themselves, we had people that were like organizational, psychology, behavioral type of folks creating. They ended up creating our pitch deck and doing stuff in Figma and saying, here's a walkthrough through our solution. We ideated together. We thought through our tokenomics. How do we use a token, whether a non-fungible, fungible, or something in between? How do we engage with folks, get them passionate about this problem where there's a real problem out there? How do we rewild? And so it brought a lot of people together to build skills, to have a great experience, and then starting to think about, now that I know a little more about Web3, where is my path lead me? Do I want to get a little more technical? Do I want to think more into the tokenomics and how tokens and economics fit together? Or do I want to think a little more about how to solve these real world problems, or a combination?
Man, you just lob me right into my next questions all the time. It's just perfect. And I mean, and they're all over the map here, but I mean, that's one of the reasons why, when you said you didn't know there was a Web3 committee coming, and obviously even, for talk about CBC, we're going to have an unbanked, we're going to have an ESG, we're going to have a diversity, we're going to have, setting up our mining. So we have a lot of the topics covered. And obviously, when we were thinking about Web3, it's obviously something that we have to be a little bit careful within the blockchain and what we want to do. But moving forward, and you're talking about education, well, Jade Camp program, but maybe I can be a community and so forth, as everybody finds their spots. What's your kind of vision for the Web3 committee within CBC, and how we're going to educate and unite, Canada?
In many ways, many times. That's my answer. I'm kidding. All right.
More coffee, please.
Yeah. Can you get me coffee too? So, I'll take a step back, and I'm sure Kalea talked about it, and you talked about it multiple times. Part of the mandate with the consortium is education. Part of it's advocacy, and I'll say part of it also is to start to bring more people into the fold, and to truly, I'll say a passion for me is when I think of the impact tech has had on my life. I want as many people as possible to have an opportunity and to be inclusive and to advance. Like when I think of growing our economy in Alberta, Western Canada, North America, world, doesn't matter. How do we give people more opportunity? And so, awareness at a minimum, making sure, regulations and support from the laws there, because there's still things being figured out. And then education. How do we help people build the skills? So we're going to do a bunch of things. And again, this is all volunteer stuff, right? So we're all trying to do our best and advance things, but everything from some live sessions. So maybe not on this platform, but on other platforms, some live sessions. We're just working through the planning there and helping people take at least those first steps, and maybe a little beyond, in terms of why Web3, why the metaverse, why DAOs, why NFTs, what the heck are these things? So those sessions are being planned. We'll kick them off in the fall. And invite one and all here and elsewhere to attend them. And we're pulling together some good formats, panels there, interesting speakers from Canada and abroad, to start to share lessons learned. Hopefully expedite the learning path for others, right?
Yeah.
Jade, if you're going to build it out, don't do this. Do this. Right? Here's some of the horror stories. Here's some of the successes. Please benefit from these lessons. So sharing those, the real stories is valuable, and not just there shilling and telling people you got to have a DAO, you got to have a DAO. It's amazing. It'll give you all the wealth in the world. And it's like, yeah, maybe not, but maybe it'll be a great journey, or maybe it'll be something where you can have an impact. So bringing the stories forward to help people really understand what these things are, how to engage, how to build the skills.
I think that's such a great point when you're talking about bringing the community together, right? And that's exactly what we want to do when we talk about it being the Wild West out there, whether it be in crypto, NFTs, DAOs, metaverse, right? We want a safe place for company XYZ or an individual X to come and say, hey, the CBC, they understand it, they get it. I'm getting the right answers. I'm connected to the right people. And you know what? It's not a sitting we're going to say, hey, we're going to promote businesses within, if you're a member, yes, absolutely. We're going to send you to Matt at Osler. We're going to send you to these types of people. But I think we can also give you some other examples that you'll be able to go to and get the right advice and the right information, and not, Google somebody and probably get ripped off.
Well, and there's, there can be a sense of FOMO, so the fear of missing out. There's the greater fool theory out there, right? Where in a bubble economy, it'll keep going up as long as you can find that one greater fool that can keep things going up. Yeah. And I'd highlighted before, the thing that interests me in Web3, blockchain, et cetera, is not to speculate on a coin. It really is, how do we leverage these underlying technologies, blockchain, smart contracts, in the world of Ethereum, the EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine. Those things speak to me as opportunities to change how we think about supply chains, to think about how we create a learning organization, to think about how we maybe run a restaurant, how we run a sporting league. Like, there's opportunities to reimagine how we get to more impact, a fairer impact, a more inclusive impact, and hopefully build a better thing, better society, better community. How are we going to get there? A lot of learning, a lot of advocacy, and not just out there speculating on, I'm trying to use polite language, a dubious coin or a dubious investment, right? And all of a sudden, you bought, well, yeah. I don't want to get you evicted from Yorkton.
Yeah, there's no swearing here.
No. But that becomes so important, and there is such potential here with the technology. We just need to get past the shucksterism and shilling of things to look at, hey, there is amazing technology and a lot of really good people trying to build something amazing. And with the consortium, with the committee, it's bringing forward thoughtful people, well-intentioned people, insightful, and to dodge the BS. Woo, got close to a blue word.
Oh my God. And I think that's so well put. And well, that's fresh in your mind. I don't want me to ramble here. So I'm going to say, if you were to see the Web3 committee in 1 year from now, what would you have accomplished, and where do you think it'll go from there?
Oh, good question. And, I'll answer both in sort of outputs and outcomes a little bit. So outputs, we've got a regularly scheduled web presence, some live stream type of thing, webinar, whatever you want to call it. Those are happening, well attended, thoughtful questions, good feedback. We're participating panels, various conferences, joining various speaking things, publishing content, and amplifying and curating content. There's some really good stuff and thoughtful ideas out there. Helping to connect people to the right sources. So, whether through hashtag or just liking or sharing, making those things visible. And then ideally, really helping people and seeing and hearing stories back that people are learning, they are advancing, they are building. Myself being with the post-secondary, bringing some ideas into our curriculum and our experiences for students. We have some other post-secondaries engaged as well, whether UBC or NAIT, and I'm with SAIT. This is going into curriculum and helping people understand, how do you use blockchain? How do you do smart contracts? There are initiatives coming out of these institutions around public health and how we manage our own data, and how that data could expedite, for instance, research and make it easier for researchers to find data that they can test against, which for someone who has a condition who needs research, this becomes very valuable, right? Like if I can connect a researcher to a condition I have and make it easy for them to advance treatment, why wouldn't I do that? Why is there not necessarily, I won't say red tape, but friction, right? It's hard to connect the dots. And maybe in a more open world where we have more control, we can connect the dots more easily. And so outcomes, more education, more folks that are not only aware of Web3, but see a path to learn the reality of it versus the FOMO, don't miss out. This is, the investment of a lifetime, spend now. That there's, some amazing new business models, some new technologies that will enable those business models, and hopefully some healthcare models and community models and neighborhood models that'll come out of it as well.
No, I love that. I think those are great goals too. I mean, I'm moving forward for the next year and beyond, right? We're excited about, where this is going to go. We're excited about how it's going to evolve. And I mean, I even think in some cases we have no idea how it's going to go. Right?
Yeah. And so, whether with the Web3 committee, the DAO, looking at education, we're all figuring this out. And I go back, we start a little bit, and I introduced, the idea of Web 1, and we brought out, the TCP/IP, HTTP, HTML was just coming out, never mind JavaScript. Yeah. And people like, so what if you've got an open network? What are you going to do about it? And there were silly things that were launched. I remember going to a website, and all it was the really big red button that did nothing. And people would go to the site and try and click on this button, and it was stupid. But nonetheless, it got people through the path of, where do you get an internet connection? What browser do I use? Does my browser work? Why would I want to do this? You mean anybody in the world can come to my site? And it all seems so basic now at this point. But I was talking to somebody about Web3, and one of the first questions was, do I need a new browser? And it's like, that's a good question. Do you need a new browser? And there are some new browsers coming, but at a minimum, you need a wallet. Which wallet do you use? How do I protect my wallet? How do I make sure when I transfer something to somebody that it actually goes to who I intended? There's these usability steps and awareness, and we're building a new vocabulary, right? Secret passphrases and hashing and this idea of an open database, or what's a token, or what's a digital asset, or how do I keep them safe? As we build this literacy, and I'll go back to this idea. It's interesting because we invited the artists. Well, we gave them a literacy, not that we did, but there's this new literacy that they're using. Well, what if we have yet more people that come in and they're using this literacy? How do we tell new stories with it? And I'm excited about that. This sense of discovery that's yet to come. Mm-hmm. And, we're not locked in where it's like forever from now forward, your laptop looks like this, your browser looks like this, your engagement looks like this. It's like, well, everything's done, but it's not. And so lots to figure out, and excited to be figuring it out.
No, it's exciting times. I'm pumped about it. I'm looking forward to see where things are going. For being involved with the Blockchain Consortium for 3.5 years, it's evolved immensely, and now, I think we got the right vision and we're heading in the right direction. And we've surrounded ourselves with so many good people like yourself to a lot of the people that are here, as you said, volunteering, sharing their knowledge because they want to make a difference. So thank you for you, giving your time back to us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? I'll use that as an opportunity to thank the committee members, where there's amazing people that have, raised a hand to say, how can we help? And, everything from folks that are bringing leading skills, AI, ML into the metaverse and into Web3. What does that look like? I don't know, but how will those worlds collide where we have yet more data available, and not only more data, but people have more control over the data? Mm-hmm. So how does that get processed? How do they benefit from it? To people looking at, well, how do we make a more human and a more connected experience in the metaverse? And what do those 3D models look like to folks that are focused just on education or to deploying new capabilities in the Web3 world? So it's an amazing group we've pulled together on the committee across Canada. bringing different perspectives in. And I'm so thankful that they've offered their time and their expertise.
No, absolutely. As are we. As are we. So I guess as we kind of wind down here, Lee, I wanted to put a little spin on the last question. So if somebody was to get into the Web3, or what should be their first steps? Think about from looking into it to where they should go.
Can I give two answers?
Yes.
So I'll start with the answer I think everybody else gives is get a wallet, buy something, go through the experience of actually engaging and acquiring. And maybe I'll say less to the buying, but get a wallet, get some token of some kind, understand your digital assets, because there's some work to be done. It's not as user-friendly as it should be. There's things that can go wrong. You'll likely make a mistake. I know I've made my mistakes, but it's a quick way to learn and get some appreciation, not only for some of these new capabilities, but for the work yet to be done. So do the basics, get through those. And then from there, I'm going to speak a little more to the developers than the general audience and the technologists. Roll up your sleeves, start to explore how the smart contracts work, how to create them. There is a ton of materials, whether going to YouTube and videos, where there's a lot of people sharing some really good content. Each of the blockchain ecosystems, and there are many, have some amazing documentation and samples, etc. There is a lot of open source code, MIT license, Apache. Roll up the sleeves and dig in, experiment, create some contracts, test with them. With all of that, you don't need to spend. It really is a time investment. And the best way to learn is by doing. So start to create some, explore, get a little frustrated. I know as I was creating contracts, it turned out the chip in my laptop was incompatible with a certain version of what was being compiled. And that takes some time to figure out. And you go, son of a gun, how did this happen? But roll up the sleeves, get your hands dirty, start to experiment, and from there start to build.
No, good advice. I like that. And and simple and direct. And again, Lee, I'd like to thank you for spending, 30 some minutes with us today. Share what the CBC is going to do with the Web3, what you're doing, and sharing your knowledge with us. So thank you, and we're greatly appreciative for it.
Awesome. Thank you, Jade. It was great to be here. And I hope people engage with our webinars, our materials, find us on LinkedIn as well, see us at different conferences. And, let's talk about Web3 anywhere and everywhere.
No, absolutely. And to all the links are on the are in the comment section, so you can head to the blockchain website. You can also go to the Canadian Blockchain Summit website. It's on there. And of course, our LinkedIn is Canada Blockchain. Right there, we put a lot of content out there. We make a lot of announcements. We have a great monthly newsletter that you can sign up for, and it's free as well. So it's more of a magazine, but it is a great resource for you to learn things. So again, thank you for your time, Lee, today, and really appreciate it. And hope you enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you, Jade. You too.
All right.